Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs, another podcast episode, and we have Liz Wolfe in the house, and she is actually an entrepreneur herself that is going to give us some tips on what we need to do and what we should know about running our businesses and even how to scale them. So Liz, why don't we start by introducing yourself?
Oh, well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on here. And there's nothing better than a mom than a mompreneur. That's all I have to say, right? I've been a mompreneur, and maybe as many of you did, used to think about that when I was young, like, how am I going to handle this when I get to be a mom, which I imagined that I would be, and how would I have a business that would support me in being a great mom and yet still feel fulfilled personally. A little bit of my backstory: my own mother, when I was 6 years old, decided she didn't want to be a housewife anymore in Pittsburgh. And so she bought a 148 acre farm.
Oh my.
I'm not recommending that. I'm not recommending that to anyone. But she started buying sheep. And she already had a background in like fiber arts, so she knew how to weave and things like that. And the punchline is we created a whole entrepreneurial world, a cottage industry, making and selling products that came somehow from the sheep and from the farm. Everything from baking bread to making sheepskin coats and things like that. So I learned from a very young age about entrepreneurship, but it was the survival type of entrepreneurship. Many of us, no one ever talked to us about, 6 figures in 60 days, or like, no one ever talked about that. They were like, how are we going to pay the electric bill this month? So when I graduated from college, I just couldn't see myself. I mean, I had jobs here and there, but I just couldn't see myself really like getting a corporate job. It just was not something that I could ever really relate to. I've had a lot of corporate clients, but the whole thing where you're building up your 401k and all that, no, I didn't do that. But having clients can sometimes feel like an entrapment also. And I know you mentioned that a lot of the folks on here that are listening may have jobs or trying to do a side hustle or any of those things. So that can be one of the biggest struggles you can have is making that transition.
It's interesting because I've interviewed so many people, and some of them are like you. They were born like entrepreneurial all the way. I can't see myself. And other people I went the executive route and I hated it. I burned out. And so now I'm trying to do something else. And so like you have a huge gamut of people that I think it does take guts, being from one who was raised, nope, you have to have a job, you have to have a steady job, and then going to, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. That's my mindset. And now it's like, I can never imagine going and punching a clock and working for somebody again, because I've tasted that. And as a mom, being able to balance everything, sometimes you are a little more busy. You can't just like shut the door behind you and not have to worry about it till the next day. Sometimes it goes into the night, it goes into the weekends, but the freedom is what is great.
Yes, I have an email list, just like most coaches do. And I was writing my Thursday email today, and I just went to Key West last week for a vacation. And then, silly me, I had my flight was the exact time of the eclipse that was happening yesterday.
Wow.
So I didn't see it, but I was really pondering how some people call it time freedom. I like to prefer to think of it as time flexibility. Yeah. It's that ability, especially as moms, this is actually something I mentioned in the email today, which is anytime my son, let's say, or my daughter had a school thing, I could do it.
Right.
And a lot of people, have to ask or take off and, at a certain level. right? Depends on where you are. I feel like if you're super high up, well, you just do whatever you want, I guess, because no one's there to tell you not to do it. I think it's a little bit of a fantasy.
Right.
But I've always had that time flexibility to be able to say, this is what I'm doing today. This is what I'm doing tomorrow. It doesn't mean you're not working, or that,
Exactly.
the 4-hour work week, if
Mhm.
that person that wrote that book is listening, it's no offense, but I don't think that that's most of us are not
Right.
looking for that. We're looking for the flexibility to be able to go and see the Christopher Columbus, presentation, or just go ice skating with my daughter on a Friday morning because I can.
Right.
And yeah.
I was thinking about that because my husband wants to buy these toys and that he's never had. And so today it's like, okay, well, I have this amount of time. And luckily the guy was super nice, but he owns his own businesses and has for years. And so he works from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then his crew goes out and takes care of things. And so I drove away thinking, it must be nice working 3 hours a day and then being able to do whatever you want, but do I want that, or am I okay with that? And so I think that as a business owner, you have to decide what you do want. But flexibility, I absolutely love that word, because it's not necessarily freedom until you get to a certain point, right? And then even at that point, you're bound by different things. So you're trading one thing for the next.
Yeah. And I had that conversation with my husband. He's a much more straightforward. I mean, he's also in his own business.
Right.
It's actually the business that I started, and then he's taken it. I've changed. I used to do a lot of computer consulting work, and that was when I was involved with corporate and all that. And then I said, well, and he took that on, and he's doing that. And now I'm doing more business coaching. And really my main, would like say, your ideal client are people who are looking to start a business or to move from being a full-time employee with just a side hustle to a full-time entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And so why did I start down that? Oh, so my husband is a much more kind of trained in that 9 to 5 mentality, even though we're in our own business. He's still, remember phones, like real phones with dial tones? Yeah. So he has that where he'll do that and he'll get on, just make those calls. And so I very much appreciate that about him.
Right.
On the other hand, as I was saying, when we were in Key West, he's much more inclined to just think he's in a new location working. Whereas I'm on vacation. That's why I came here, right? Now, I also did some work while I was there, but I'm on vacation. And I love location freedom. That's location flexibility. That's another thing that people are looking for. And I'm at a point now where my kids are actually, one kid is out of the house and is actually living someplace else, and another one is in college. So it's a lot different for me now. I wouldn't call myself an empty nester, but I don't have that thing that's when they're sitting in your house, you're thinking about them all the time, right? Thinking about them. And so, and that can be a draw for, an energetic draw is what I mean, for moms to like know your kids are sitting in another room right now and could be at any moment needing your attention.
Right.
It's something that we all have to deal with.
I think for me, like, because I have younger kids still and older, but like if I'm in my office, they know I'm in my office, and so they don't bother me. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, now what are they doing? Are they on the phone? Are they watching TV? Are they just brain sucking, or are they doing things that are productive? And so it's that juggle, of what you need to do. So what would you say are the keys to creating an abundant business?
So the 3 keys to creating an abundant business are to ask powerfully, to give wholeheartedly, and receive graciously. And given our time that we have together here, I could go into in fact, I have a 3-day workshop that I could do on those topics, but I'll give you the synopsis of them, because they counteract what people think, which is 3 keys are to work really, really hard. That's one key. People are like, oh, I got to work really hard. And we're talking about that. Or to have really good connections with people. And networking is important, but it's not the be all end all. Or this is another thing that comes up for women, especially, is to be a respected expert. And that's where the imposter syndrome will come in and say, you're not good at it. What do you know? Well, I'm not that good. I was just speaking, as a matter of fact, with one of my clients who has been in business for like 35 years or something, between corporate and having her own business. And she's still having those conversations of, being willing to shine. So why I bring that up is that while I would say that those three of working hard, having connections, and being a respected expert are tools in your entrepreneurial toolbox, they're good to have, but they're not the be all end all. Why I say the others, which is to ask powerfully, give wholeheartedly, and receive graciously, because those are all in your control. So I can always ask. And when I say ask powerfully, what I'm really saying is to be specific in your asks. So let's say you're on a sales call. A lot of us don't even ask for the sale.
Yep.
Or if we do, we say, what do you think? Are you interested? We don't say, would you like to buy my $4,000 coaching program? Right? We're not specific. And so there's a boldness to it, but it's not like a brashness. It's just a being willing to ask the facts, hey, would you like to buy my product or service?
Yes.
So, and I can do that at any time. I've created so much abundance in my life just by asking for support, asking for free stuff, asking for coaching, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The second part, which is to give wholeheartedly, is sometimes feels illogical to people. They feel like, well, doesn't receiving come after asking? Like first you ask, then you receive, and then you have enough to give. But it's actually a way, giving wholeheartedly is a way of starting that spark of abundance in generosity in your world. So what that might look like is, if I want clients, I can go and ask for referrals. That's the asking powerful, but I can also give referrals to other people. And that is that exchange. And now I'm not, because women also can have a thing where they will often give too much or give ineffectively or feel overwhelmed, oh, I just give, I never get anything back. So I'm not really talking about that energy. I'm talking about, again, being strategic in the giving experience that you have, but having it be authentic.
A few key nuggets that I took away from that. First is, women, sometimes because of our culture, we're kind of taught this mentality that you're not as good as, the man, or that you've experienced the discrimination. So it's this imposter syndrome that you actually have to get over that mindset and say, you know what, I am just as good. I do deserve this. That I think a lot of people, they have to work through. And once they can do that. And the second thing is to ask, because we come from a society, it's not polite to do this, or it's not polite to do that. And there's this one guy, he has gotten so much money out of me because he does it so sneaky and sly that he's like, so what do you think? Would you like to work together? And before, I tell him, no, I'm not going to do this. And then next thing I know, I'm whipping out my credit card. I'm like, dang it, you are so good at what you do. Wow. And so I've thought about like recording those calls, because it's practice. You know how many times he's done it? He's good because he practices. He's good because he has asked for years, and he's gotten used to, because he believes in what he has to offer. And so because of that, now he can offer and ask with confidence. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely asking takes practice.
Yeah, it does.
And sometimes I have gotten things that I don't even realize I'm asking for sometimes.
Yeah.
It's because I'm so practiced at it. I'm so good at it. What I'm also hearing in that is detachment.
Right.
My guess is that.
Yeah, that's true.
But, do you ever have that feeling like, well, I really want, why are we afraid to ask? Because we're afraid they're going to say no.
Right.
And we're afraid they're going to say no because we've put so much into the answer of yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, look, it is important, and I am attached to the result. Like, I want it to be good, but it's, I shouldn't say I'm attached, I should say I'm invested in it, right? I'm putting the effort in because I want it to have the result I want. But there's an anxiety that will come up within us sometimes around asking, because we don't like to be rejected and we don't want to hear a no. And we end up not asking because we want it to be inferred. I always like to say, I always get exactly what I want for my birthday.
Did you ask?
Which is why I have 5 ukuleles, because and now 2 guitars and a bass. Why? Because I say this is what I want, and some people say, "Oh, that's not very romantic." It's like, I don't know. You want romance? Take me out to dinner. Take me to Key West. A gift is not to me romance. A gift is if there's something specific that I want. Obviously, I like to be surprised as much as the next person, but I don't like to be surprised with stuff I didn't really want or like.
Oh, yeah.
So being very specific about it for sure. And that does take us to the third part, which is the receiving graciously. And that everybody's like, oh, I want $1 million. Yes, I want all that stuff. But sometimes it's hard to receive the abundance. We're very calculating and conditional about how we receive.
I like that. And I like that you ask, because anytime I don't ever say anything because I have so much stuff, I don't need it. Like, look at my walls. So my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would really like this. He goes, and he's like, I didn't write it down because I don't ever ask. And it's, well, if you really know me and you really care, then you would know what I want. And I've switched that at all. So I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone from starting our business and things that we need to know. Let's talk about the people who actually have an established business. What are some of the things that you would recommend to increase their sales?
Well, I would take on this idea of asking, giving, and receiving as a practice. First of all, it's not just, of course, for new entrepreneurs, but anyone who is looking to, because once you start really evaluating, well, how much am I asking? How am I asking? And then for each one of those parts, and especially the receiving. And one thing I would say is to stop making, as I said this a moment ago, but stop being conditional in your receiving. But this specifically is what I mean, not just like I want that or I don't want that or I don't like that, but also the part where we want to justify our abundance.
Okay.
We want to justify, because when you're a scrappy new entrepreneur, there's not really much wealth usually going on there. And so your people are cheering you on because, oh, you're really you're working so hard at it, right? Once you start to get some success and start to increase your business, and people start to look at you a little differently. I mean, I once read online like the top 40 women business owners and how much they made. I forget, it was a while ago. And the comments, no one deserves to make that much money. What are they even doing that they can, like, and by the way, I will say this, the highest paid woman entrepreneur, the highest earning one, was still lower than the lowest man amount.
Because of, I know.
So, but yet all the women were getting attacked for this idea that they're being so successful.
Right.
And so what we do is we try to justify. And I just want everyone to hear this loud and clear. You never have to justify creating abundance in your life. You never have to do that. I listen to a lot of meditations on those apps, they have them. And they all want you to repeat these affirmations, which I love. I love affirmation, love a good affirmation. But a lot of times they say, I am worthy of receiving. I deserve to whatever. And no, you don't. You don't need to deserve it in order to have it. You really do not. And that's like my wish for all of humankind, but women in particular, to release this necessity of deserving or having some worthiness that you have to live up to. Because if you're not living up to it, then you reject it.
Right.
We reject our own abundance. So I don't want us to do that anymore.
I love that. So what would you say is the number one thing that people need to do when they're feeling stuck? And maybe there's not a number one, but what would you say if I'm feeling stuck and I'm not quite sure, what would you recommend to me?
Yeah. Stuck is usually about resistance.
Okay.
You're resisting something, and it could be anything, of course. And procrastination definitely falls into this category. People tend to assign personal negative attributes to themselves when they're, oh, I'm just not disciplined enough. I'm lazy. I'm all that. And if you could replace all of that talk with one simple question, which is, what am I resisting right now?
I love that.
What am I resisting? And if you got quiet with that and really answer, and usually there's well, I'm resisting. There's fear, there's doubt, there's other things that are underneath, or I don't know how to do it, or I'm afraid if I do it, it will be wrong. I'll waste my time. Nobody wants to waste their time.
And I think, to add to that, I think that it's not just, we got to go deeper, because you could say, oh, I'm resisting because of this, but let's go deeper. Like I just listened to something where, and it's different, but what's your why? And go 7 layers deep. I think with the resisting part of it, I love that, because I'm experiencing that. Like I'm having so many breakthroughs for different things. And it's like, oh my gosh, and what am I resisting? And it's this mindset that you have to overcome. It's, am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? Am I, and so you start to put on all these excuses. And so really, I love that, the resistance, identify your resistance.
Yeah. And we tend to compare ourselves to other people.
Right.
And it's reasonable, logical. I actually created a quiz that I have that helps you to identify your entrepreneurial personality, even if you're not an entrepreneur yet. It's your leadership style. And what I've gotten the feedback from people when they read the results is, oh, I didn't realize that was a strength. So for instance, the chief enthusiasm officer is somebody that constantly has new ideas, but in the back of their mind, they're saying, but I don't have the discipline to stick with one thing. Well, because they're not understanding that they're a chief enthusiasm officer. So they're always going to have a lot of ideas. But it's not about discipline or sticking to it. It's about systems that will help you to figure out, how can I implement this marvelous idea? 'Cause ideas by themselves are great, but nobody ever got $1 million for an idea, right?
Sorry. Totally agree with you. Okay, so I just lost my voice. If you were talking to somebody, maybe your 18-year-old self or the person that you have, and you said, okay, what is one piece of advice that you could give? I'm sorry. If you could, you're sitting on a park bench and you have this person that's just getting ready to start a business. What is one piece of advice that you would give them?
Yeah. Well, I look back at my own 18-year-old self, and I will tell you this. Yeah. I was a photography major in college. I never worked a single day as a photographer in my life. As soon as I graduated from college, I actually opened a little store that was selling the products from our farm. It was a misguided attempt to try to save my mother and save the farm. I didn't know anything about business. So I wasn't very good at it. And plus I was 23 and really, I wasn't paying attention. But I could have made a success. Like if I knew now what I knew then, if social media had existed, the whole thing would have been
right.
But I gave that up, even though it was really kind of a cool thing. Then I decided, I'm going to be a rock star, because I was actually I was a dance minor in college, and I have really good singing voice. And I was like, okay, I'm going to move to New York City and do singing. And I actually had I found a voice teacher, and she said, yeah, you got a voice that'll do. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not doing that. I didn't think that logically. I didn't think, I'm so good at this that it was like, I'm really going to go down that path. That's a lot.
Mhm.
And then I started going down the computer path, which is what led me to this moment. But the big breakthrough for me was understanding how the minute I discovered I was actually good at something was like hot, like, and I would back away like, oh, what am I going to do with that?
Right.
And would I have rather have been a National Geographic photographer or a rock star? I don't know. The life turned out how it did, and I have a very good life. I'm very, very happy.
Mhm.
So I'm not even saying I would or wouldn't, but I just noticed that tendency where I pulled back the minute it started to seem like this could be a real thing and I could actually really do that. And I have had people say that to me out of college, like, why are you doing this store thing when you just have all these amazing photographs? And I was like, I didn't even really have an answer for them.
Mhm.
So wherever you are, I'll just tell you this, you're better than you think you are. And you don't even have to be really that good, to be honest.
I'm laughing because I know some people that are like multimillionaire, and I'm like, you're doing it.
Yeah, doing it. You're not that good though. Right? But I mean, obviously they're good. You know what that is? That's about receiving.
Yeah,
All about receiving.
I agree.
And hey, I love them. Success to all. I love it.
You know.
But don't think you have to be like super that great.
Sorry. It's so true. And I love how honest you are. That's the part that's great. Okay. So if somebody wanted to find you and they want more information, or how would they get a hold of you?
My website is the best way, lizwolfecoaching.com /quiz if you'd like to do the quiz. Of course, I would love to, get all your answers and get to know you a little bit through that. And, but just make sure Wolfe has an E, lizwolfecoaching.com /quiz. And in case you didn't get the joke, Liz Wolfe, last name Wolfe, grew up on a farm, sheep farm. There's a little connect that'll help you remember it.
I like that. I like that.
Wolf's the name, sheep's the game. That was our little tagline that we had on our t-shirt.
That's cute. Very
It was
cute.
fun.
All right. Well, Liz, you have been a delight to have on.
Thank you so much.
So much knowledge about the business and how to grow your business. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And for our unbreakable moms, you do not have to worry about if you're good enough or not. You are. So give yourself permission to just go forward and do what you want and pursue your passion. Have a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.